to introduce all our teams to you today through short presentations devoted to the topics we are dealing with. The first team is the one whose major concerns are the language and Slovak traditional national cuisine. And the first presenter is Monika Homolova from Kulinta.
So I would like to show you this cookbook I inherited from my great uncle. It was published in 1948 and we kept it in our family. And also I have this one from 1920. The differences between this cookbook and the ones we have now are noted on the first few pages. For example, you have there instructions how to properly store or serve food, what calorie amounts in there. Also differences are in the language. There are archaisms, which are words we no longer use because we have new words. There are also diminutives, so it's not the standard language. And there are also some spelling changes. There are also pictures, but surprisingly they are not in black and white, but as you can see they are in green or later in red. And there are also, the recipes are different as well. I found some ingredients which we no longer use today. For example, wheel brains or spleen or kidneys, maybe even fish eggs. Even recipes for different illnesses, like depending on the illness, which foods to avoid or which to eat more, which I found really helpful. And also there's this one, which also included a copy of the original cover. And here the differences in vocabulary are even more pronounced. For example, they use italska instead of talianska, or mrazivo instead of zmrzlina. And for example, kvíčal, which stands for drost. So they even had recipes how to cook birds and, for example, even pigeons. And some titles of the recipes also include full stop after title. And the names of the recipes are in both Slovak and German.
Now, I would like to invite Simona Kršeljová to the stage, and she will present one of our traditional Slovak legends to you.
Weeks of King Svetopluk. Great Moravian King Svetopluk had 3 sons who quarreled who will succeed to the throne after their father's death. According to traditions, the eldest son was the heir of the throne. However, all Svetopluk's sons wanted to rule the country. When King Svetopluk was dying, he commanded to bring his 3 sons, Momir, Svetopluk, and Preslav, to his chamber. He got out of bed, took 3 twigs, tied together, and he gave them firstly to Momir, then Svetopluk, and finally to Preslav. He wanted them to break the twigs and gave one to each of them. The sons broke it without much effort. The king told them, "My sons, if you are united and help each other, you will be strong and no enemy will defeat you, just as you could not break these 3 twigs. However, if you quarrel, you will be weak and the kingdom will be taken by your enemies." Unfortunately, the sons did not listen to their father's advice, and they continued to fight against each other until their kingdom fell apart and kissed the pieces. And now something of history about Great Moravia. Great Moravia was the state which existed between the year 833 and the beginning of the 10th century. Its central territory corresponds to today's Moravia and Slovakia, together with the neighboring northern and middle Hungary. The Great Moravian Empire was formed by the affiliation of the Moravians, the Morniers, and Dimitra Kvinaz-Princeton. At the time of the reign of monarch Svetopluk, the empire was booming because of the expansion. Svetopluk was the most significant monarch of Great Moravia.
So I would like to tell you something about model plać. It's a traditional technique of decorating Slovak folk costumes. It has been around for 500 years, and by the second half of the 18th century, almost every town in Slovakia had a factory where model plać was printed on fabric. And it was mainly popular in northern regions of Slovakia, like Morava, Šariš, and Spiš. And it was made by printing some blue coloring and a coating mix called papu onto the fabric, which was usually fabric made out of flax or hemp. And where papu was applied, the coating mix, the parts remained white, creating patterns like these. For example, one of the known patterns was called a tree pattern because it resembled trees. And the rest was colored dark blue with the coloring, as you can see on this piece I have here. And today, model plać is a bit of an old tradition that isn't practiced as much anymore. Only very few people still do it, but it can still be seen on some clothes and souvenirs that you can get from Slovakia. And recently, just this year, a few months ago, model plać was added to the UNESCO World Heritage list. So I think that's really interesting for our culture. Thank you.
So I prepared a little speech about this picture. This picture was made in Bukanec, in the town which has the biggest pottery culture and history in Slovakia. I think that it was made by the last clay artist in Bukanec, Jan Frank, and it was bought in his museum. It was made on a kick wheel and painted with the typical glaze of Bukanec, with typical green color and very simple stripe ornaments. It is used for milk, and it might have been made about 15 years ago. So thank you for your attention.
Now I would like to introduce our third and the last team. Its members deal with Slovak traditional national costumes, music, dances.
Eco-region folk costume in Slovakia. Every village or area had its own code which we would call folk costume or dress. It plays a very important role. It showed which village or area you were from, if you were single or married, and it showed of the talents of the boy or girl who made it. They are used for very special occasions. Traditional dress for girls consists of several underskirts, upper skirts, blouse, bodice, and boots, scarf, and jewelry. The hairstyle of married woman is followed by the cut of the bonnet. An individual hairstyle was necessary for ceremonial occasions. A bride was popular with using of so-called parka. Traditional folk costumes are divided by ordinary clothing, ceremonial clothing, wedding clothing, and mourning clothing. Thank you for attention.
So I will talk about Leibig. This part of woman folk costume called Leibig belonged to my friend's grandma. She was born to quite poor family in Banská Bystrica. Once, when she was at the market, she met her husband for the first time. They immediately fell in love, got married, and moved to village. They used to visit events there, but she did not have anything proper to wear there. Her husband decided to buy her some fabric, and she made her first Leibig. Since then, she was making clothes to their neighbors. She was not poor anymore. and she found herself a hobby in this. Today, after going through the problems with her eyesight, the result of which is the fact she nearly goes blind, she cannot continue making folk costumes anymore. But what she does is talking about her story and inspiring young people and families.
Good afternoon. I prepared a short talk about my granddad's spatula. This spatula was forged of iron because it's for working with fire. More precisely, it's for removing the ashes from the fireplace. My granddad made this item about 40 years ago. He was a locksmith by education. After my granddad passed away, my dad inherited this item. We found it in the attic a few years ago, and since then it always keeps its place next to our fireplace. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
So, good afternoon. I've prepared a small talk about this object. This object is called a cobbler's anvil or shoemaker's tripod. It has got a unique shape, as you can see, and it's forged of steel. It is used for repairing shoes, and these two parts of it are used for repairing flat shoes, and this third part of it is used for repairing high heels. It is from my great-great-granddad, who was a shoe repairer or shoemaker, and it is about 100 years old.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much. It was nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much, boys. And now, I would like to thank you all for interesting speeches. And now we will switch to Slovak because I would like our special guest, Mr. Alex, to deliver his lecture in our mother language.